For most, although there's a race earlier in Phoenix, the year really begins at Indianapolis in the month of May. The Indy 500. Mario Andretti has the pole for the first time since 1967. But the curse of Indy was to rear up and bite Mario one more time. He hasn't won there since 1969. Mario controlled the race, but then his car ran into fuel management problems. He was out of the race. Roberto Guerrero then ran into problems of his own with a pit stall. He was gone with 20 laps remaining, and that left it up to the veteran Al Unser Sr., who cruised home to victory for the fourth time in his career. A victory that got a knowing nod and a thumbs up from Al Unser's son, Al Jr. On to Milwaukee, and again Mario Andretti ran into problems. This time the wing fell off his car, and the loss of aerodynamics sent the car into a wild spin in front of the grandstand. He was out of the race, but the Andretti name remained up there in lights. Son Michael went on to win at Milwaukee for the second straight year. Then it was on to Portland, Oregon, and again it was misfortune for Roberto Guerrero. He had taken his second straight pole, but then early in the race he lost his engine. Bobby Rahal was to take advantage of that and go on to win the race. For Rahal, just the beginning of a hot streak that carries on to this day. At the Meadowlands in New Jersey, early in the race, Michael Andretti was the leader, but he was beaten in a pit stop as Bobby Rahal jumped out in front and went on to win the race. He's picked up 74 of his 90 points in the last 4 races. Then 2 weeks ago at the Cleveland Lakefront Airport circuit, it was Emerson Fittipaldi, the wily veteran in the Marlboro, won his 3rd career victory in the CART series. And so the drivers come to Toronto, round 8 of the 1987 CART Championship Series. The leader and defending series champion Bobby Rahal with 91 points. Michael Andretti's 13 behind him, followed by Father Mario, Al Unser Jr., Roberto Guerrero, and Emerson Fittipaldi. They're all here for this second running of the Molson Indy. From Exhibition Place in Toronto, Ontario, the second running of the Molson Indy. This is Lakeshore Boulevard, downtown Toronto, any summer day you want to choose. But today, the only Sunday drivers on Lakeshore Boulevard will be at the wheel of a 750-horsepower racer as the PPG Indy World Series comes to Canada. Hello again, everyone. I'm Ron Roosh. Joining me for the telecast this afternoon, once again, Chris Economaki. Chris, a tremendous field once again.
Well, and a big money, $800,000, with the winner going to pocket almost $100,000, so it's important to the drivers. But I think the course has been surprising this year. 11 turns. The winning driver is going to have to make over 1,800 gear changes, and there's a fuel situation. The cars are a little different than they were last year, and fuel mileage is a concern to some of the contestants.
Well, that concern is going to be addressed from our pit reporter, Jerry Gappens. Jerry?
A concern it is. It's a big concern. It could be the difference between winning and losing today, and this will be one of the stories of the race we'll be bringing you down from pit road. 107 gallons of fuel will be allotted for this race. 40 gallons are already in the cars. 67 gallons are in these tanks, and they'll need every last drop if their calculations are right. The chief mechanic will become a mathematician after that first stop and calculate whether his driver's got enough fuel to go the distance. Back upstairs to you.
All right, Jerry, and we've got a terrific day for racing here at Ontario Place, or the area surrounding Ontario Place. Temperature 24 degrees, the humidity not so uncomfortable at 64%, the winds at 11 kilometers an hour, and the sky a little hazy right now, but forecast to be mostly sunny. So we don't expect any rain. They're on the slicks out there on the track, Chris, and we expect some great speeds and some great racing.
Well, you know, it's a nice day, but it's not the kind of a day you want to wear your winter underwear, and that's what these drivers all have on under these flame-retardant driving suits. This is quite a series from a standpoint of participant discomfort. Every one of these drivers in the competition today is going to lose some weight before it's all over.
Well, part of course, the color and drama of motor racing are the pre-race ceremonies, the official opening of the Molson Indy. We're going to switch down to track level now for those ceremonies. Here's the Vice President of Sports for CTV, Johnny Esau. Johnny?
Start your engines!
dramatic moment as the cars begin to fire up, and everyone, of course, anxious along the pits to make sure their car does, in fact, fire up and get started. And now, as they begin to clear the track, they'll start to move off on the initial pace laps. The Molson Indy will continue after these messages.
You're the backbone of the...
They're on the track and rolling, and here now is the field for the second Molson Indy. On the pole will be Bobby Rahal, the points leader in the overall CART series, and the Budweiser Lola Cosworth. 74 of his 91 points have come in the last 4 races. Joining Rahal on the front row will be Roberto Guerrero, 5th in points. He was 2nd in the Indy 500, a very steady competitor. On the second row, the winner of the Cleveland Grand Prix 2 weeks ago, Emerson Fittipaldi of Brazil, a former 2-time World Formula One champion. Joining Emerson on row 2, Danny Sullivan. He'll drive a year-old March, which he qualified late. The Penske-designed car's not as competitive as they would like. On row number 3, Mario Andretti. Mario had 4 pole positions coming into this race this year. He's driving the Carl Haas Paul Newman factory Lola. And as they so often seem to be, right beside him on the grid, 24-year-old son, Michael Andretti. He's been in the top 5 of the 7 races this year. Row number 4, another second-generation driver, Al Unser Jr. 4th in the standings. He's driving a March after 2 seasons with Lola. And with Unser on row 4, another second-generation driver, veteran Jeff Brabham, son of the former world champion Sir Jack Brabham, one of the great pioneers of the sport. And here's the rest of the field, and we have an international field, of course. Derek Daly is from Ireland. Kevin Cogan has had his days in Indianapolis. Tom Sneva, a veteran, of course, of the oval tracks. On row number 7, Jose Lagarza is there from Mexico, along with Dutchman Arie Luijendijk. In row number 8, we've got an Italian, Fabrizio Barbazza, Rookie of the Year at Indianapolis this year, and 2-time Indy winner, Rick Mears. On row number 9, Ludwig Heimrath Jr., the local favorite from Toronto, Ontario, along with his team boss, Dick Simon, who's the oldest man in the field at 53. Johnny Rutherford is there, another veteran, 3-time Indy winner, along with young Randy Lewis. In row number 11, Rick Maskiewicz, along with John Richards. And on the 12th and final row, another Canadian, the second in the race, Scott Goodyear of Toronto, along with Dale Coyne.
Bobby Rahal on the pole, Ron, has really had a wonderful career here in Toronto. It was here where he met his wife when he was racing Formula Atlantics. He won the race last year, and from the day they showed up at Exhibition Place, his car's been the fastest in all the practice sessions and in the qualifying. He's really on a roll here in Toronto.
Well, they talk about the pressures that come with being a defending champion. He has faced them and borne up under them very well. He's a very affable individual who has managed to handle all of the pressure of the media here in this city with aplomb. And as we're still in the pace lap, Jerry Gappin's down in the pit area. Jerry?
Rick Gallis, the crew owner of 2 Cars Machine, trouble already. Rick, can you tell us what happened?
We don't know really what happened. Apparently, Jeff got tangled up with one of the other cars. I think it was one of our cars. And apparently he's out of the race, so it's a real tragedy, of course.
Rick Gallis means Jeff Brabham might be out of the race and might have been knocked out by his own teammate, Jeff McPherson. What a story. 2 cars, and they collide on the pace lap.
Jeff Brabham had trouble. We mentioned at the outset that Jeff Brabham, as we look down there at, is that Jeff's car? That's Jeff McPherson there. That's the teammate, of course, of Jeff Brabham. But with McPherson still on the track, Jeff Brabham stalled as they were moving off on the pace lap, and I think Jeff may have been trying to get back into the group and may have collided with his own car. That's speculation at this point.
It looks like the rear wheel alignment is a little upset on that number 11 car. That's one of the few cars with a Honda engine, Ron. And the other car with a Honda engine, the only other Honda engine car, is his teammate, Jeff Brabham, in car number 15. That's a tough break for the Gallis team from Albuquerque, New Mexico. McPherson's a rookie on the circuit. He's from Santa Margarita, California, trying to make his mark on the IndyCar Series.
Has a couple of 8th place finishes this year. At Indianapolis, he was 8th after he started 12th, and he was 8th at Milwaukee as well after starting 15th. We're continuing on, of course, the pace lap. The pace car is still on the track, and they will go one more time around, and then we should be getting underway with racing here at Exhibition Place in Toronto. And we, of course, will be watching for the hot shoes here on the top qualifiers. Rahal, Guerrero, Fittipaldi, Sullivan, and the 2 Andrettis. They make up the first 3 rows of this grid. If you're looking back in the grid, Chris, anybody in there you might expect on a circuit like this one who could really threaten coming from far back?
Well, so many of these drivers have road racing backgrounds. Tom Sneeve is an oval track driver, and Rick Mears is an oval track driver, Dick Simon. So you look to the others who grew up on road courses. I'd have to say Jose Ligarza, the Mexican, and Lyondike, the Dutchman, and Barbaza, the Italian. These are the road racing. They started their careers in road racing, and they have to sort of be looked upon as having a better chance than some of the hard-driving oval track specialists.
Much has been said and written about the 2 Canadians, Ludwig Heimrath Jr. and Scott Goodyear, who, by the way, have come up through the road racing circuits. And they are in a tough situation. You're dealing with drivers, a former 2-time world champion in Emerson Fittipaldi, Ray Hall, who has had many, many years in the Formula Atlantic Series. It's going to be tough. If they finish the race, I think it would be kind of a victory for those 2 racers with their limited experience. All right, we are getting set here, and we should be getting ready to race. We're watching the flag here. The pace car has gone off the track. They're through turn 10. If they're lined up straight, they will go, and we'll watch the flagger as they come down and towards the start-finish line. They are at the top of the straight. Here they come, and the green flags are out, and they are underway. They are racing here at Exhibition Place in Toronto as Hal Moran of the Molson Breweries Ontario Limited, the honorary starter, assisted. There's a collision right on turn 1 as just coming through, and we've had a car, and I believe that is the car of Dick Simon, who's up against the wall. Simon and Ludwig Heimrath Jr. seem to come together, the 2 teammates.
Exactly.
And it's Heimrath, I think, managed to get through, but there's his boss parked up against the wall.
You know, they've all but one driver said that turn 1 is the toughest corner on the course. Emerson Fittipaldi being the exception. He's saying the last turn, the high-speed one, was the most difficult for him. This turn 1 is a very difficult turn, and the track is rather slippery these days.
Well, they are going to quickly push him out of the way. There's an escape road there. We remember Mike Nish last year coming to grief right up against that turn. He's lost the wing on the front of his car. And I believe that what happened was he tangled with his teammate. They were side by side, his teammate being, of course, Ludwig Heimrath Jr. They seemed to come together, and it's set at that kind of speed, of course, any kind of an open wheel car will go into a spin. And as they push him out of the way, they have got the yellow flag being shown on that turn. Emerson Fittipaldi just going through there. There's Kevin Cogan. And the leader at this stage, I believe, is Bobby Rahal.
Yeah, unlike oval track racing, Ron, and road racing, the yellow flag is displayed only at the area where the trouble prevails. And once they're past that area, it's back to racing, as you can see here. Roberto Guerrero being challenged by Emerson Fittipaldi as Bobby Rahal leads. Rahal made sure at the start that he got into that first corner first. You know, this is a very difficult course. As I mentioned earlier, the winner's going to change gears 1,800 times. Here we have Ludwig Heimrath, in-car camera there. He's got to change gears 18 times a lap. The only respite they have from that is down this big, long back straightaway, where you get maybe 10 seconds of relaxation, and then it's changing gears about every 2 seconds thereafter. They go up to 5th gear, and at one point, they go down as low as 1st gear. Most of the course, though, is 2nd, 3rd, and 4th gear running.
Well, the 18 changes. You watch the right hand of Goodyear, and if you think it's not a long type of shift that you have in your car at home, the traverse of the gear shift lever amounts to about 3 inches. It's a quick little switch, flick of the wrist, and you're moving through the gears very quickly. So as we're watching our onboard camera, and obviously Ludwig Heimrath survived things very well in that little shunt with his boss, Dick Simon. Simon, of course, out of the race. And there you see the leader, Bobby Rahal, wearing number 1 as the defending CART champion. This Molson Indy will continue after these messages.
At Speedy Muffler King, time.
Exhibition Place, Toronto, Ontario. Bobby Rahal is leading and opening it up against Roberto Guerrero, currently racing 2nd. Danny Sullivan's moved into 3rd place. Michael Andretti 4th, and Emerson Fittipaldi currently in 5th place.
Rahal has opened up a lead of 1 2/100 seconds. He's got this course figured out. There's no two ways about that. His True Sports team, headed by Steve Horn, is one of the most professional. And Rahal is a new breed of driver on. The old swashbuckling, heavy, hard-drinking, fun-loving driver. He reads history, plays golf, looks like a piano tuner, and he comes out for breakfast with his wife and young baby. He doesn't want to talk racing. Comes out here and it's all business.
Well, he's out on the circuit right now, and of course he came up very studious with the sport. Watching him come through Formula Atlantic on his way up to the IndyCar Series, he has really kind of revolutionized this sport, as you say, the new professionalism. And he is, as Chris has just put the clock on him, what is it now as he's opening it up slowly here?
1.21 seconds. That's a fifth of a second he picked up on Guerrero in the last lap alone.
Johnny Rutherford has been in the pits for a fair length of time now, so he very early has run into grief here at Exhibition Place on this very tight circuit.
The flag man, Nick Fenoro, is showing the white flag with a red cross on it, which means there's an ambulance or a service vehicle on the track. We can't see where that is.
There you see it.
Oh, yeah, that's right there.
You see Michael Andretti going through there in car number 18. Michael, at this moment, is in 4th place. Michael, this year, as we get back onto the lead, is Bobby Rahal. Much is forgotten about Bobby Rahal's race last year, but at one point, Rahal had a 1-minute lead in this race, but he was accused of passing the pace car while it was on the track. They put him into one of what they call a stop and wait penalty. The black flagged him, sent him into the pit. A stop and wait made him wait 46 seconds. He came back out onto the race in 9th position and then regained the lead again last year on lap 78, lost it briefly, and then came on to lead the last 12 laps of the race, and he was then on his way to the victory in the first race here. And so as Bobby Rahal continues to lead here, it's down to the pits, and here's Jerry Gaffin. Jerry?
And one of the downsides of racing is early disappointment. This is Diane Simon, the wife of Dick Simon, the oldest driver in the field. What happened to Dick on that first lap incident down there?
Well, as near as we can tell, we're in contact with him on the radio, and he said somebody tapped him in the rear going into that first turn. It was, you know, they're all bunched up together. They're going into that turn, somebody tapped him in the rear, and he just ended up in the tire. There's hardly no damage to the car, but he's in a place where they can't tow him, so he's out.
Okay, Dick Simon out of the race, the oldest driver in the field, backed by a Canadian company called McKinsey. He was disappointed, no doubt. Back to you, Ron.
Well, we're watching Bobby Rahal leading right now.
Well, you know, Ron, his lead at the end of lap 3 was 1.02 seconds. He stretched it to 1.2, 1.9, and now he holds a 2.13-second advantage over Roberto Guerrero. And it looks like Bobby Rahal in that #1 car really has this racing circuit figured out.
You know, you can go into hot streaks, Chris, in any sport. In this sport, Bobby Rahal off to a slow start. He traditionally seems to start his season slowly. But then suddenly he caught fire in an 8-day span. He won 3 races in 3 different series, in IROC, in IMSA, and then in CART. Followed it up with another CART victory at the Meadowlands. Now has the pole here at Toronto in the race he won last year. And he right now has more points at this stage of the year than he did last year. And of course, last year he finished so strongly and then went on to win the CART championship.
In addition to the IndyCar achievements, he's a driver of great breadth. As you see, he mentioned what an IROC race. That's in a Chevrolet Camaro, a 3,300-pound car. Then he won a sports car race riding in a Porsche. So, I mean, he really has great talent, and we're seeing it at work today.
You're watching that long straightaway at the back as we watch also Emerson Fittipaldi making a move on Michael Andretti, and Fittipaldi is through on the turn there as he got inside on him, and right behind him is Roberto Guerrero. So there's been a little bit of shuffling going on in the back now. That is Fittipaldi in car number 20. Let's take a look at it.
It's Mario Andretti watching his son being polished off by the world champion.
And, of course, the winner of the last race at Cleveland, as Fittipaldi has not had an easy entry into the CART Indy type racing for a fellow who has obviously demonstrated immense skills in the sport, winning 2 world championships in 3 years in 2 different teams, with first Lotus and then with McLaren, but is beginning to find his way. The yellow flag is out. You can see them being waved there as Emerson Fittipaldi comes through. Fittipaldi at this moment is in 4th place now. Just behind Danny Sullivan, with Rahal leading and Guerrero in 2nd place. Fittipaldi in the Marlboro March who, by the way, sponsored his effort when he was with McLaren back when he won a world championship. The pace car has gone onto the track, so there is some difficulties which we will try to catch up on somewhere out in the back there out of our camera view. The service vehicle is on the track, and so with the yellow flag out, it's time to take a break. The Molson Indy will continue after these messages. The pace car remains on the track, and tucked in behind him is Bobby Rahal, followed by Roberto Guerrero, Danny Sullivan, Emerson Fittipaldi, and Michael Andretti. Rahal had run up almost a 3-second lead at one point, and now, of course, with the pace car back out there, it all closes back out again. There's a problem over at turn 6, and this is the reason for the yellow flag and the pace car being on the track.
Well, the reason that the stalled racing car can't be removed without putting a wrecker out there. Now, the wrecker's out there, they've hooked it onto it, and once it pulls it to a position of safety, the green flag will come back out. And this is a plus for those teams who are concerned with fuel consumption, Ron, because every lap behind the pace car, the cars get double the mileage.
We might look back to last year when Mike Nish crashed into a barrier on turn number 1. They went to 23 laps going around and around with the pace car on the track, and then finally they got it going. Rahal, of course, had a 1-minute lead at the time and was accused of passing that pace car, and that was the reason he was called into the pits for those 46 seconds. All right, down in the pits is Jerry Gabbins. Perhaps he can help us out a little bit on what's going on down there. Jerry?
We're with Steve Horn, the team manager for Bobby Rahal. And Steve, Bobby built a pretty nice lead there. The yellow's going to wipe it out a little bit. But do you worry he's pushing the car too hard, too early with fuel and everything?
No, I think quite the opposite, actually. We're just taking it a little bit easy. The car seems to be working pretty good. We made a couple of changes last night. It seems to have helped. And so I don't think he's overextending himself, no.
Any idea about fuel situation until you make that first stop?
It won't be a problem.
Okay, Steve Horn, no problem in Bobby Rahal's pit right now.
That's a little scary, Chris, when a guy tells you that he's opened up a 3-second lead 10 laps into the race and that he's not using his car at all.
Well, there's public pronouncements and private pronouncements in any sport, I gather, on.
Well, right now, of course, he's got...
Just a little sashing back and forth. A very humorous story was told. The drivers to this day don't agree whether they're warming up their tires or they're cleaning them off. And I asked one driver once why he did it, and he said, because the guy in front of me does it.
Probably the best description.
Yeah.
The old days, I think probably on those slicks you might have been clearing. They used to have so much debris on the tracks. Now they bring out these sweepers and everything else, and these tracks, there aren't hardly any marbles, as they used to call them anymore. The little debris that gets up in the high parts of turns and so on. So I don't know whether they're scrubbing them or, as you say, warming them up or just doing something to bide the time while they wait for the race to start.
The drivers like this track, first of all, because it's so smooth, and secondly, particularly for a street circuit, it's wide. There is room to let your car go, in a sense, where it wants to go at speed. And they all come away from Toronto saying it's a very good place to race. And what they don't like about it is their inability to get the car dialed in. And it's obvious that Rahal's car is probably the best of those in that category. It's dialed in right for this racetrack.
We brought the subject up a little bit during the qualifying runs yesterday, but here's Rahal driving what is not the factory Lola. The factory Lola, in fact, belongs and is operated by the Newman Haas team, driven by Mario Andretti, and yet Rahal is leading the championship series. Obviously, now you're buying these cars out of a box. They're pretty much identical, but if you've got the factory car, you've got an advantage in that you're getting the front line of development. And yet he's beating them. Now, there is a one marked difference between the Bobby Rahal car. As you think, that's an interesting shot,
isn't it? Yeah.
But when the marked difference, of course, is in the engine.
Right. Well, the Chevrolet Elmore engine has great potential, and it's a state-of-the-art engine. It's the only engine in IndyCar racing today that was designed from the ground up to be turbocharged. All of the other power plants, the Cosworth and the Honda, were normally aspirated or carbureted engines, so to speak, and the turbo was put on as an afterthought. It was a fold-on option. And the engine wasn't designed for all the stresses and strains. But over the years, reliability has been developed. The Chevrolet is only in its second year of competition, and there's still some teething problems being felt by those people who are behind it.
Now, the Ilmore engine made its debut in 1986 at Phoenix, built by Mario Ilian and Paul Morgan, who are two former Cosworth technicians who have done a pretty good job in a very short order, because developing engines is a very big job, as they're finding out at the Porsche factory.
Well, that's very true. Roger Penske was the catalyst on this deal. He got Chevrolet interested in fielding an Indy engine, and he saw to it that these experts came from Cosworth.
We're going to get back to racing here now. I think the pace car has just gone into the pits, and we're watching the flagger now, and we'll see whether they get the... There it goes. We're on our way, and we're back to racing now. So 12th lap, 13th lap now. We had a 4-lap delay there. Bobby Rahal now will try to open it up once again, as he's being chased by Guerrero, Sullivan, Fittipaldi, Michael Andretti, Mario Andretti, and Al Unser Jr. The rookie, Fabrizio Barbazza, currently is in 10th place.
John Richards, the number 27 car, was right in front of the leaders when the green flag came out. He's a rookie, and he's doing a very gentlemanlike job of staying out of the way of the faster cars. He's going a lap down now at this very moment.
You might have noticed going through that last turn how aggressive Roberto Guerrero was. He really had his foot to the boards, as they say.
Well, we made the point earlier that the track is said to be slippery today, and that sort of shows it.
Caused by the rubber, the lack of rain, perhaps, in the area?
Oh, the year curing. This is new asphalt. It's a year older than it was last year, and the things happen to asphalt, particularly in a part of the country where you have 4 distinct seasons.
The only thing that they've really done to this circuit from last year, and there were absolutely no complaints in talking to Emerson Fittipaldi, was they paved the apexes of the turns. That's the area right in the middle of the turns. What you're doing is, of course, you're going along Lakeshore Boulevard here. You come down into that area, you're going onto a different road surface. And on the apex of the turn, you got a rather rough change of surface. And what they've done is we get some action now. Michael Andretti. And he's not going to make it through there. The Guerrero Andretti, I think, is tough. Yeah, good work.
Right, Danny is showing the son how to go about it. How about that?
Boy, they love to race each other, don't they?
They really
Chris?
do. You know, at one point, does Mario wonder whether he did the right thing about coaching? There's Michael in the yellow and blue car, and Dad on the outside. Now, one of the more difficult passes in racing is the outside pass. And, of course, lucky for Mario, the next turn was a left one, and they're moving. Al Unser tried to follow Mario Andretti right by Michael there, couldn't quite make it.
Closest finish in the history of IndyCar racing was at Portland a couple of years ago when Mario beat son Michael by 0.07 seconds. That's a terrific race and a terrific... But notice, father beat son.
That's right. No, the son ran out of fuel coming out of the last corner. He actually coasting across the line. He nipped him by the narrowest of margins at the end. Now, here's Mario closing up on Emerson Fittipaldi. 2 world driving champions, 2 world-class drivers going at it here. Now, this is what people pay big money for tickets to see.
Well, you're seeing immense skill. Oh, goodness, that's Michael there, is it? And it's right in the middle of the turn. And we didn't spot the yellow flags. Obviously, they did because they were able to avoid it. Michael and also...
the junior.
So the 2 juniors have gone out, and they're parked up against the wall. So, with Bobby Rahal, Roberto Guerrero, and Danny Sullivan, 1, 2, 3, the Molson Indy will continue after these messages. Back at Exhibition Place in Toronto, the Molson Indy. We've got a view of that last little shot involving Mario Andretti and Al Unser Jr. We'll look at it from the onboard camera of Ludwig Heimrath Jr. And watch to the left of your screen. Let's take a look at it now as just in front.
The red and white car is Al Unser Jr. who's trailing the yellow car. We can see them there. The yellow car on the left of your screen going down into the corner. Heimrath's glove there turning to the left. Up onto this short. There's a lot of traffic in front of Heimrath at this point. Weaving over to the right. Awfully, he's tailgating, Ron. That's Harry Lyondike directly in front of him in the number 71 car.
Well, they touched, and then up against the wall they went, and we're awaiting a report on just what has happened to them.
Michael Andretti got started and came to the pits and had some repair work done on his back end. There you are now. They changed the rear wing. They're still working on Michael Andretti's car. This is going to put him a couple of laps down. No indications as to the condition of Al Unser Jr.'s car. Both of these drivers led last year's race here.
Now, we should mention that wing is very important for those who aren't familiar with the aerodynamics of an open-wheel race car. That wing gets slightly off. You might as well spend 5 minutes in the pit repairing it than try to go out there and race with a bent wing. The aerodynamics get so messed up that the car just can't handle it all on the track. And we saw what happened to Mario Andretti at Milwaukee when the wing fell off his car. The aerodynamics let loose. The car got loose itself.
The downforce disappeared.
And it wound up against the wall in what he called the hardest hit of his career.
You wonder about the frustrations Bobby Rahal must be feeling, Ron. He went out, he filled up a lead, in each case a big lead, and the yellow flags come out. Now here it is, he raced, and you can bet your life that when the green flag is shown again, one more lap, we're going to get one more lap of yellow flag going, and the starter just signaled the field that there's going to be one more turn, and starting to weave again, that back and forth moving to heat up the tires, that Roberto Guerrero will try very hard to use this restart as a way to get ahead of Bobby Rahal. Okay, Jerry Gabbard, our pit reporter's down there in the Craco pit for Michael Andretti. Jerry?
And here's the damaged wing they took off of Michael Andretti's car. You can see the flap. No good at all. They had to take 2 minutes and 54 seconds to replace this wing. It's going to drop him down in the standings. And remember, he's second in the point standings for the championship, and it could be a very costly stop for Michael Andretti. And here's the end result.
All right, Jerry, we should mention that Canadian Scott Goodyear currently is in 12th place in this race. We're trying to get an update on where Ludwig Heimrath is in the standings at this particular moment. So Heimrath also still in the race, and as we mentioned, just to finish this race in this company will be an immense accomplishment for either or both of these drivers. But right now, Bobby Rahal is the winner.
As you see just how far Michael Andretti has fallen in the standings there. He's lost, I guess, 2 laps. It's interesting that he would have his car repaired, Ron, under the yellow flag that he helped bring out.
Yeah, it helped him out. Yes, you're right.
Right.
The leader is, as we mentioned, Bobby Rahal. Roberto Guerrero is back out in front of him. Danny Sullivan is third. Emerson Fittipaldi fourth. And Mario Andretti is in 5th place. The rookie Fabrizio Barbazza, Monza, Italy, is in 6th place. Barbazza, youngster who raced in the American Racing Series, which is a series that is kind of a cool feature along with the Indy. The green flag, I think, is about to come back out. It's being shown as they come around the final turn. They're on their way, and they're back racing again. So there we go. Car number 1, of course, Bobby Rahal. And right behind him is Guerrero, and then Danny Sullivan.
I was surprised at Emerson Fittipaldi in 4th place, letting those 3 leaders pull away by so much, and I'm sure Mario Andretti in 5th spot is frustrated. He'd like to be closer to the front. Here comes Rahal, Guerrero, and Sullivan.
Sullivan was very much a factor in last year's race, but this year, as they've experimented with he's racing 3rd, by the way, car number 3 back there, but Sullivan this year has had his problems because they've experimented with the Penske car. It has not been working well. They made a change right in the middle of qualifying here. The best they could get out of the Penske PC16 was 9th. They changed to a year-old March, went back out there and qualified, gained 5 places on the grid. He qualified 4th at the end. And so on a year-old March, Danny Sullivan is competing very well.
He's doing extremely well. I just talked to Danny before the start of the race, and I asked him if he'd had his 1988 plans completed. He says it's going to be business as usual. So Roger Penske and his 2 drivers, Sullivan and Rick Mears, don't have that worry hanging over their heads that so many others have here as to what they're going to be doing next year. Bobby Rahal will stay with the same team for next year, but almost everyone else is worrying about their 1988 season, whether they're going to have a good ride, whether they're going to get a good retainer, whether the sponsors. Here's Rick Mears challenging another Indy winner, Tom Sneva, on the inside for not getting quite enough speed underneath him. That's the outbreak. It's interesting. Because these cars are so evenly matched, Ron, the way to pass is to use the brakes, to drive down to the corner and get on the brakes late. And that's one way of passing car. It's also a way to use your brakes up. And you can't make a brake pad change in this kind of a race and have it work for you because of the time it's required to do that work.
Bobby Rahal has led all the way. Of course, we have not had any pit stops yet. There is a point given on top of the points for win, second, and all the way down to 12th. There is a point given for most laps led in the race, and also a point for the top qualifier. So Bobby Rahal came into this race with 90 points. We've been showing 91 up there. That is because, of course, he qualified for the pole and picked up that point yesterday. So he is trying to add on to that now, carrying a 13-point lead on Michael Andretti and a rather substantial lead, 29 points on Mario Andretti, who is in third place. Mario had an early win this year at Long Beach, but hasn't really had much success. Here comes Rick Mears now on Sneva, and he just doesn't seem to have the power on Steve, although he got by him there. It just doesn't seem to have an awful lot of oomph in that Penske.
One of the differences there, that's the number 8 car, that's a PC-16 they've had so much trouble developing, is the only car in the race with a 6-speed gearbox. All the others have 5-speed gearboxes. And it may well have been that variety of the gears that allowed Rick Mears to do what he just did.
Well, they've had all kinds of difficulty with the gear ratios here, as I guess the change in aerodynamics, especially I think in the marches, Chris has really made things very much different. Here's the pass, and again, you notice there's a right-hander coming up here. So down goes, although he looks like he's behind, he's got the line, but now the left-hander, and this is where it gets difficult. You saw Mario Andretti with his son Michael earlier, and he managed to hold on the line.
Rick Mears is one of the truly great development drivers in working with a car to get it to handle properly for whatever kind of circuit you're racing on, and he apparently is getting this car now to where it's going to become competitive. That was an Indy winner, Tom Sneva, he passed, driving a March Cosworth. This is a Penske PC-16 with a Chevrolet Elmore engine. Entirely different type of automobile.
The reason that Roger Penske is developing his own car, at least attempting to, and it hasn't been too successful, although he's had immense success earlier, he says the moment, if you have these cars that come out of the box, like March, and also of course, the cars that are being driven by Mario Andretti, the Lolas, they come out of a box. All right, you make an improvement on the car, it's good for one race, everybody copies it, and you're back to square one. If you have your own car, you can, then you're racing your own car, the changes can't affect another car, and so you move along. All right, Jerry Gappin's in the pits. Gary?
And one of the Canadian favorites, Ludwig Heinrath Jr., out of the race. What happened?
Well, unfortunately, it appears that something inside the gearbox let go, and we have no drive between the engine and the gearbox itself. The clutch is fine, the differential seems to be fine, so I suspect it's an input shaft or something.
How was the competition on the track? Conditions good? Was it tight racing out there?
Oh, yeah, there was a lot of bumping and banging going on out there, as you can see from the results so far. I was just sort of settling down behind Ari, and there was a couple of times I was going to try and get by him on the back straight, but he was making it a little tough, and I wasn't ready to go for him real hard yet, but unfortunately, we just ran out of time there.
Okay, big disappointment for Ludwig Heinrath Jr., hoping to do well here in his home Canada.
Scott Goodyear, by the way, sorry, Chris, Scott Goodyear, by the way, the other Toronto-born driver in the race, is currently in 14th place, so we still have one hope out there for Canada.
I think this event is a great plus for Canada, Ron. It's a very well-organized and presented sports event.
So Bobby Rahal is out there along with Guerrero. Guerrero in second place behind Rahal. Danny Sullivan, Emerson Fittipaldi, and Mario Andretti completing the top 5 as we are through lap 24 right now in this Molson Indy here at Exhibition Place in Toronto. The Molson Indy continues after these messages. Well, there, very briefly, is the whole story of the race right now. Bobby Rahal with that 1.1 second lead, averaging 103.67 miles per hour. There are 15 cars still on the lead lap, and 18 cars remaining in the race, of which Scott Goodyear is racing 14th right now. We've only had one leader. Now, let's take a look at the cars that are out of the race so far. It's a fair amount of attrition at this stage, but then you again expect that on a street-type circuit because the wear and tear on a car with the throwing around turns and so on is considerable. Jeff Brabham, Dick Simon, Jeff McPherson, Johnny Rutherford's out as well.
3 of those cars, though, are out of the race because of accidents, and the other 3 because of mechanicals. The interesting thing to me, Ron, is that Guerrero is holding Rahal to just over a second. Rahal is no longer running away with it. After that last yellow flag, Guerrero is staying there. He's got him in his sight.
Now,
Could that be the fuel situation, changing the handling characteristic of the car? Perhaps it's handling a little better at this stage than it was with the full fuel load.
Well, there's 40 gallons in the car. They're going to be stopping in another 5 laps, so probably 30 of those 40 gallons have burned off. And at 8 pounds a gallon, the cars are 240 pounds lighter now than they were when they took the green flag, and it may well be a plus for Guerrero.
You're watching, of course, Ray Hall, Guerrero right behind him in his mirror, but the fastest lap of the race so far belongs to Roberto Guerrero at 103.88. That's 103.88 miles per hour. And just behind him, Mario Andretti has put in 103.85 miles an hour. That's an average speed around this 2.8-mile circuit, so a 2.8-kilometer circuit, and it's a very, very quick speed considering the winding roads you face and a hairpin at the end of a long straightaway.
You know, it's remarkable how talented these drivers are. Forget about turning the steering wheel. The fact that they're changing that gear shift lever 18 times a lap. One missed shift can mean disaster in a corner because the car isn't going to slow down properly, yet they never do. They're always right on the double clutching and so forth. And down Lakeshore Boulevard, Bobby Rahal finding the outside line the best through the gears. This is the only first gear portion of the court right here. It's the only place where first gear is used.
And, of course, it also is an area where you can really stand on the brakes, try to outbrake. And over $1 million earned by Bobby Rahal in his rather brief career, really, in IndyCar racing.
Well, I think the men in the pits now, Ron, are starting to get ready, sharpening up their skills. Last year, the first pit stop was made on the 32nd lap of the competition, and we're in the 28th lap or 29th lap right now, so it should be fairly soon that the crew chiefs will be signaling their drivers to come in for fuel. The fuel, incidentally, is methanol alcohol. It used to be called wood alcohol. It's made from natural gas now. It's a very cool-burning fuel. It's good for the engines, and it's quite hard to light. The dangers of fire in IndyCar racing are far less than in Formula One racing, where gasoline, which is a highly volatile fuel, tends to explode and lights very easily.
The only problem, of course, with methanol is when you do have a fire, it is usually a disaster because it burns without flame.
It looks like Emerson Fittipaldi has been passed by Danny Sullivan. Sullivan is on the move in the Penske #3 car.
So Sullivan in third place, Fittipaldi in fourth, and Andretti now in fifth. We'll run down the top 10. Barbazza sixth, Rick Mears seventh, Tom Sneva eighth, the Irishman Derek Daly ninth, and Kevin Cogan is in 10th place, the teammate of Emerson Fittipaldi. Harry Leyendijk in 11th place, and Jose Lagarza is 12th. There's a good view of our leader, Bobby Rahal, as he comes through the turn and past the Prince's Gate. And he'll be winding his way out and onto the straightaway. There's a good view of Lakeshore Boulevard here in Toronto. A little kink down the middle. And a little different than the normal days here, as we've now completed 30 laps here at the Molson Indy in Toronto of 103 that they will race. There's that sharp right-hander down at the end that they have to stand on the brakes for and then come through in first gear.
The yellow flags that prevailed earlier, it's been agreed upon by crew chiefs that every lap under the yellow you get double the fuel mileage. So whereas 32 laps was where we stopped last year, they may go 3 or 4 more to take advantage of that fuel that was not used going slowly under the yellow flag. Perhaps 35 or 36 laps then for the first pit stop today.
Well, Bobby Rahal is making a Sunday drive out of this early, as we've got, I think, our first fuel stop. Scott Goodyear is into the pits right now. He is having one tire replaced, at least on the 2 left-hand side tires are going to be replaced for Scott Goodyear, as Bobby Rahal continues to lead. Goodyear's pit in a rather lengthy stop right now. And there may be more problems.
They're working on the right side as well, Ron. There's a 4-tire change on the car.
And we're looking here at Emerson Fittipaldi being chased by Mario Andretti. Mario just behind Fittipaldi in the race for 4th place right now. And Mario hasn't had a lot of success getting by Fittipaldi in this race so far, although they seem to have been together since this race started.
That's true. Both those cars have the same engine. One's a March and one's a Lola. So from a horsepower standpoint, they should be evenly matched.
Well, Mario Andretti won Long Beach from the pole, was second at the Meadowlands and fifth at Phoenix, and of course had that terrible luck again at Indianapolis this year where he led and then had it all fall away from him with a fuel management system went out on him.
Well, Ray Hall has found the groove again. He started to open up on Roberto Guerrero, 2 and 2.5 seconds for Bobby Ray Hall, building that advantage.
Now, this one's interesting, but it doesn't seem like Mario is able to make a move at all on Emerson Fittipaldi. Scott Goodyear is back out on the circuit now, so the Canadian is back racing. Mario is content just to stay in the slipstream.
You know, that's interesting. These cars, the aerodynamics are so important on these cars, Ron, that when you get behind another car, and the air gets, as the racers call it, dirty, the car in the back, unlike stock car racing, where that is an advantage, this is a disadvantage because the air doesn't flow over the wings or aerodynamic surfaces properly, and the car in the second position loses downforce. It's very difficult to drive. Often they'll move out to the left or to the right of the car in front of them to find some clean air to go through.
Emerson Fittipaldi, 25 when he won his first world championship, the youngest ever at that time. Won it for Lotus back in 1972.
He became a national hero in his native Brazil, had parades in his honor in Rio and Sao Paulo. Right now, he's working very hard to have an IndyCar race put on in his native Brazil. The track in Sao Paulo, a road course, is surrounded by a 2-mile oval, he says, and he's working hopefully to take a group of American cars and drivers and some Canadians too down there for an exhibition race in December. He says he doesn't think it'll happen this year, but hopefully next year.
And part of the bank of telecasts coming out of the exhibition place here in Toronto is Brazilian television. They are televising this one back home. Emerson said he was practically ignored because they are very much a Formula One oriented country, partly because of Emerson's success in Formula One. He, of course, hasn't been the only South American who has done well in Formula One racing, but when he came to this form of racing, he didn't get any kind of ink at all, and then suddenly he won, and now they've picked up their interest.
He's quite an exponent of IndyCar racing, and he says that IndyCar racing places more demands on a racing driver than does Formula One because of the diversity of the tracks. You have street circuits such as we have here. We have high-speed ovals like the Michigan Bowl, Indianapolis, and then you have the small ovals, the 1-mile ovals. He said a driver has to have far more bread to excel in IndyCar racing than he does in Formula One racing.
Scott Goodyear is back in the pits, and they've taken the bonnet off his car, and he is running into engine difficulties. So his debut here is apparently running into some problems. We're also getting a lot of action in the pits now, so it is about to happen, and this is always a fun part of these races as the cars start to come in for their fuel and tire changes. Danny Sullivan is going to apparently take on left side tires. We see them out also for Fabrizio Barbassa's pit, but now Sullivan is in the pits, and there he is, car number 3, and they are replacing the right side tires and also the left front and also the rear. So it's a 4-tire change here for Danny Sullivan, who came into the pits in 5th place behind Mario Andretti. We've got a clock on him here in our booth, 16.4 seconds. Mears is right behind him. He has now come to a stop in the Penske pit, so the Penske crews are busy almost all at once. And there goes Danny Sullivan out on the track. Mears being attended to.
All right, there's only a left side tire change for Rick Mears, 13.83 seconds for Rick Mears, but only 2 tires. Barbassa's out of the pits, Tom Snevis in the pits, but Bobby Rahal has made a strategic extra lap. He's going to have 1 more lap worth of fuel in his tank prior to his second stop.
Which, of course, as we have mentioned throughout the telecast, could be very important. As we see there, the car of John Richards coming out. Danny Sullivan went into the pits in 5th place. We'll find out exactly where he is as Richards is waving. Now, out comes, well, we've had Ray Hall. He snuck in on us. Way up at the other end of the pits. Ray Hall is out there, and there now is the leader. There's the leader, Roberto Guerrero now, who is not yet pitted, and that's the reason he, of course, is out there on top. The yellow flag is also out. We've got a car up against the wall, and I don't know which one that one is, but it's being pushed away behind the wall by the looks of it. But there's Roberto Guerrero. So Guerrero currently the leader. Fittipaldi, who is also not pitted, 3.48 seconds behind. And here now comes the car of Roberto Guerrero. Guerrero coming down. They are backing that car away. That car's up. He is off the track. And we'll take a break. The Molson Indy continues after these messages. So our leader, Emerson Fittipaldi, followed by Mario Andretti and Bobby Rahal, as we're at Exhibition Place in Toronto, Ontario, and we're looking at Rick Mears' car. Right now, Mears running in 7th place. Here's Jerry Gappens down in the pits. Jerry?
A quick pit stop for Roberto Guerrero the last time around has now been erased as he's made a second stop in 2 laps. And there's some kind of problem. They just adjusted on the car. He's sitting back out. But what a disappointment, because the crew got him in and out faster than Bobby Rahal's crew did. Got him back out on the track in 1st place. And Fittipaldi's team did the smart strategy, getting Emo back out and in 1st place as well. Back upstairs to Ron.
And who was it that said, Ron, haste makes waste?
So Fittipaldi on top right now. You're looking at Rick Mears there. You can't miss that car, the bright yellow, the Pennzoil special. And there goes Fittipaldi out of the pits now, so we may have a lead change right there.
I suspect
people will start vaulting back up to the top again. Rahal has moved into 2nd place. Fittipaldi still shows on our computer scoring on top, but of course he must complete the lap, and then we'll reassess things at that point. At this moment, Fittipaldi, Rahal, Andretti, Sullivan, and Kogan.
And now they're doing their calculations with the computers as to when they can stop for their 2nd and final fueling stop and without running out of fuel.
Interesting. We've had a good opportunity here to note differences in driving styles and how smooth some of the, especially the veteran drivers like Andretti, Fittipaldi are. Rahal, who currently shows in 2nd, Andretti in 3rd, but again, we expect that Emerson Fittipaldi is going to be shuffled back down perhaps to 2nd or 3rd place when he completes this lap, and the scorers are able to assess his exact position following the pit spot stop. Here he comes through now.
He's ahead.
He's ahead. Well, there you go. So there they are. That tells you the story. Now we're going to see some racing.
Well, you know, that's interesting because Fittipaldi's pit crew obviously outspent Bobby Rahal's pit crew.
Rahal had a 13-second stop. I think was your clocking on that, and obviously Fittipaldi didn't require as much, perhaps. But you see Fittipaldi just ahead of car number 1, driven by Rahal.
And we'll see now. Fittipaldi is an extremely aggressive driver. Remember now, every driver we spoke to said turn 1 was the most difficult turn here, except Fittipaldi. He said the fast 160-mile-an-hour bend leading the start-finish line was the tough one for him.
Tough one, but he liked it.
Yeah, that's right.
It was always interesting when you talk to drivers, the challenge to take that turn perfectly to get... There it is. The absolute maximum, they like to call it 10/10ths out of the turn, is the driver's challenge. And when they do it, I guess it's a wonderful feeling of elation to be able to run that perfect lap, which of course you never seem to be able to do. But these drivers with these skills, Chris, they drive each lap almost within fractions of inches of each other in terms of where they take the turn and so on. You're at a very, very high skill level, obviously, at these speeds.
And the precision is remarkable. You know, catching a driver is one thing, and passing him is another, particularly on a circuit like this. Now, Bobby Rahal hasn't quite caught Emerson Fittipaldi as yet. Well, let's just see what kind of maneuvering and strategy Rahal uses. What he's doing here is studying Fittipaldi's lines, and he sees Fittipaldi at the back end, got out a little bit there. And that, of course, hurt him getting going again down that straightaway. So Rahal is watching Fittipaldi's moves on the racetrack here to decide where he might try to outbreak him. Finding the power to pull out and pass him is out of the question. So it's going to be a very, very delicate and well-thought-out maneuver that Rahal executes if he can and when he can.
Well, you see them there. Again, the little dip in the back end there is that slight little dip in a road course, which is caused, as you said, by the 4 seasons that the Canadian year presents, 4 rather distinct ones that cause shifts in pavement, as we're all well aware of, through Canadian potholes.
Well, Gary Robazzini, the crew chief on Fittipaldi's car, has got to be smiling now because they had beautiful pit work on the Patrick crew, the Marlboro crew, was responsible for Fittipaldi doing as well as he did in Cleveland, and here they are, they're really up for it now. There, see, that's one corner there where Fittipaldi has a little bit of trouble with the back end of that car, and he's on fresh tires.
And that's, of course, as you say, when you see a car break loose even slightly like that, a loss of power. You want the smoothness, you want that constant acceleration through turns. And the moment you start to lose it, even the slightest amount, costs you a fraction of a second. You do that maybe 3 times in a lap, and suddenly you've lost 3/10.
That's right, and Ray Hall is a smoother driver than Fittipaldi. And Fittipaldi is a bit more aggressive. Fittipaldi is more of a racer than Ray Hall, and Ray Hall is more of a driver than Fittipaldi.
So we've got almost the same situation that existed at the end of the Grand Prix in Cleveland. Fittipaldi number 1 and Ray Hall number 2, separated somewhat more, but...
You know, it's interesting, the local newspaperman chose Fittipaldi, gave him 3-2 odds towards winning the race. Ray Hall, they gave 5-1 odds to. We'll see how bright your Toronto press people are.
They're the odds makers, huh?
Yeah.
The difference at Cleveland between Fittipaldi, who won the race, and Ray Hall, who finished second, was 11.7 seconds. Somewhat different here, where our gap currently on the computers is listed as 3/4 of a second. So there is the race right now, and it is for the lead. Fittipaldi, car number 20. The Marlboro March and the Lola, driven by Bobby Ray Hall. Here's Jerry Gappin. Jerry?
Gary Robazzini, the crew chief for Emerson Fittipaldi. Gary, your crew's doing a good job servicing him. What's he saying about the track conditions?
Well, Emerson hasn't said too much. I guess everything's going pretty good. We just got to keep it up. That's all we can do.
Fuel, how's fuel for you right now?
Well, at the moment, everything's tight. So we just have to see what happens. Just keep working and go after it.
Keep that in mind. Fuel's tight for Emerson Fittipaldi.
Fittipaldi in his 4th season, driving the Marlboro March 87C Chevrolet-powered car. They've had some problems with the long distances with the Chevrolet, which, again, is a development problem, but they have won their share of races. They're beginning to come along, and obviously here we're in a situation where we've got a Chevrolet racing a Ford, a Cosworth. All right, as we look at the 2 leaders, and they're separated by just that much, Emerson Fittipaldi and Bobby Ray Hall. The Molson Indy will continue after these messages.
Here's...
It's still Emerson Fittipaldi ahead of Bobby Ray Hall as Mario has run into some difficulties.
He's had car trouble. He's got off on an escape road to get out of the way of the traffic. It's a tough break as Andretti was out of the Cleveland race. You see him here now, going down Lakeshore and into the escape road, getting on the brakes, bringing it to a stop. Boy, has he had a tough season. Indianapolis having it in the bag. Won that Indianapolis race in 1969, and since 1969, Mario Andretti has failed to finish the Indianapolis 500 16 times. And that's a year apart those races are held.
And then count up the number of laps he's led at Indianapolis over those 16 times. I mean, he's been competitive. Just everything seems to happen to him. Scott Goodyear, by the way, the Toronto-born competitor in car number 56, lost 5 laps with his journeys into the pits. He is currently racing in 5th place, but he is still racing, and he's still out there. Ludwig Heimrath Jr., meanwhile, has been forced to retire through engine problems.
Well, Emerson Fittipaldi seems to have Bobby Ray Hall at bay. One of the things Emerson has learned about IndyCar racing is how to use the lap traffic. He's picking and choosing when to pass a slower car to make it tougher for Ray Hall in that section of the circuit.
Well, Emo is way out there. Actually, seems to have opened it up a bit. Now, again, is that Ray Hall backing off a little bit, considering how much he dominated the early going in this race? You wonder whether, again, it's just Ray Hall saying, well, I'll wait my chance. Maybe in the next exchange of pit stops we can do something.
and then just kind of lie in the woods, as it were.
It's getting a little late in the day to plan, to rely on your pit crew. There's only going to be one more schedule stop, depending on whether they're going to take on 2 tires or 4 tires. You can get the car fueled about the same time it takes to change 2 tires. When you go to the other side to change the other one, then that stop takes a few seconds longer.
We basically had just 2 leaders here. Fittipaldi, of course, in the most recent segment of the racing, and Ray Hall earlier. There were 7 lead changes in the race last year here. 5 different leaders.
Very competitive race. Very competitive race. It shows the circuit lends itself to good racing.
That was the one thing the driver said. Of all the street circuits, this is the one that really allowed. Now, you see him closing up a little bit there.
And Fittipaldi's coming up on a slower car. Ray Hall may be able to take advantage of Fittipaldi having to position that number 20 to get around the slower car. Back markers, they're called in racing. He's right there. Now, Ray Hall has picked up a tremendous amount of ground in just 1 lap.
Again, that lends itself to the business of just laying back and perhaps deciding that Sneva, who's in front of the 2 of them, by the way, Sneva, who is great and very fast on the ovals, has had his problem trying to learn how to race in the streets and then on the road circuits.
Sneva's had so many problems. We'll talk about that after we hear from the pits and Jerry Gaffins.
The problem for Mario Andretti was the engine. It went sour. That's why he had to exit off the course. Attrition started to take its toll right now. Derek Daly out with gearbox problems. Jose Garza out with gearbox problems. It's going to be a tough day, it looks like, for some of the top runners here. So keep that in mind as you watch Emerson Fittipaldi with that Chevy engine as the last hope there. That's the same engine Andretti had in his car. So it's something to watch. Michael Andretti once again is into the pits again. So it's starting to take its toll as we're around the halfway point of this event.
All right, Tom Sneva's in front of Emerson Fittipaldi, the leader, in second place Bobby Ray Hall. And Tom Sneva is not an easy man to pass. By no stretch of the imagination is he a pushover. So when Fittipaldi catches up to him, this should really be interesting. Ray Hall is going to wait to see which way Fittipaldi moves. He'll go the other way and try to take the lead.
You notice how Sneva is driving. He's throwing that car around a little bit. He is an immense competitor. That has always been the thing about Tom Sneva. He loves to race. You always like to draw the line between what a racer is and what a driver is. Well, we've got some action.
How about this? Just as we said, you know, Sneva, being beaten is not so bad, but being lapped is an insult. And he's going to fight being lapped. And Ray Hall, right there, Fittipaldi moved over and he pulled alongside. Now Fittipaldi knows very well that Ray Hall is there. Ray Hall's on the hot. Here they come down underneath Sneva. Let's see if Sneva interrupts the 2. Yes, he does, and that's a break for Fittipaldi.
This is the favorite spot to be making a pass on this circuit. We saw the Andrettis, of course, go through it. It's a left-right or a right-left, as it were, and then the 2 of them, by using the brakes and so on, they get through on that one. So the pass was made there, but now you've got that car in between the 2 of them.
In a span of a few hundred yards here, they go from 5th to 4th to 3rd to 2nd to 1st and back up again. The gearbox is really getting exercised through that section of the circuit.
So right now, Fittipaldi and now safely by Sneva as well as Ray Hall, so there's still 1-2. Fittipaldi now dealing with another back marker there. That's car number 27. That's
this
the car
is a real auto race. You look at Ray Hall trying him on the inside, then on the outside. Maybe when he fell back there, maybe he was letting his tires cool down to make this charge.
Boy, they are after each other, aren't they? Ray Hall,
he's moving out to get the air over the wings to work better. He doesn't want to go right behind him because the car doesn't handle quite properly there. So he has to move down there.
And again, they're through that same turn and unable to make the pass. Ray Hall. Now, the concentration here is immense on a driver, Chris. You just can't afford to make the smallest, most minute error or you're not in first place anymore. Fittipaldi, of course, has been through this for many years.
The difference in the engines can be seen. There's some stretches of the track, that number 20 car, which has the Chevy Ilmor engine, leaps ahead of the Cosworth. And in other sections, depending on what gear it's in, the Cosworth seems to have more. Here's that high-speed turn that Fittipaldi likes so much. You know, it's very difficult. In a lot of races, the pit crews can watch all the way around. Here, the cars disappear. The element of suspense is tremendous.
As they go down Lakeshore Boulevard, the speed's reached, by the way, and here they are, and they're going to try it again. Right about here, they're at about 300 kilometers an hour. They come off the end of that, and of course have to make that jog through turns 3 and 4.
Everybody will have their stopwatches out, Ron, when these two men make their next pit stop, because this race could very well be determined by those men in the pits today.
It doesn't seem to be much said about the cars. It's a driver now that's going to win this race between these two cars. Fittipaldi, of course, having the advantage because he, at this moment, is in front. But they seem to be very evenly matched in terms of their ability to get around the circuit, the total circuit. Terrific race. So Fittipaldi currently showing a half-second lead on Rahal. Danny Sullivan, by the way, is in 3rd place. Kevin Cogan, a bit of a story. He has moved up to 4th place. A few laps ago, he was down as low as 10th. Rick Mears is currently 5th. Then Roberto Guerrero, Fabrizio Barbazza, Tom Sneva, and Ari Luyendijk.
There's 3 cars in the lead lap, according to the chart. And it's Rahal taking another breather before he gathers himself up, takes a deep breath, takes another charge at Fittipaldi.
There are only 1 or 2 places where you could possibly make a pass on this circuit. We seem to find that there's just one where they seem to want to really do it. There may be a spot where you take advantage of a mistake. And that spot is coming up again as they pass the start-finish line once again on lap number 55 now complete of 103. We've passed the halfway point. Fittipaldi's 87 years, 3 times in the top 10. He's won just the 1 race. But coming on, seeming to show that they've got the car together now. He won at Cleveland. He was 3rd at the Meadowlands, 7th at Milwaukee, which is traditionally the race right after the Indy 500.
Fittipaldi's coming up on a slower car, which could affect this battle for it's Fabrizio Barbazza directly in front of Emerson Fittipaldi. So let's watch as they come up on the number 12 car. The rookie from Monza, Italy, who aspires to Formula One with a 2-time world champion and an Indy winner and a national driving champion coming up behind him.
Not much need be said. They are racing each other. The 2 of them race. We're going to take a break once again here at Exhibition Place. The Molson Indy continues after these messages. It's still Emerson Fittipaldi followed by Bobby Rahal, and Danny Sullivan is in 3rd place, 6 seconds behind the other 2. Here's the summary. The leader, Emerson Fittipaldi, by that 1/3 of a second, averaging 92.39 miles per hour. There are 8 cars left on the lead lap and 14 remaining in the race. We've had 3 leaders so far in the race and a couple of caution flags. And out of the race, there they are. Jeff Brabham, Dick Simon, Jeff McPherson, Johnny Rutherford, Al Unser Jr., Ludwig Heimrath Jr. of Toronto, along with Dale Coyne, Jose Legarza. Mario is out, along with Irishman Derek Daly. The situation remains. There they are.
And Rahal is not letting Fittipaldi get away by any stretch of the imagination, but it's an accordion-type interval. It's nose to tail for a while, and then it opens way up, and then it comes back again. And as these cars go to the pits, the track is less populous. It's more of an open road for the 2 of them. Kevin Cogan, Fittipaldi's teammate, just made an unscheduled pit stop, lost some ground, and lost that top 10 position.
The cars are on the 59th lap right now, so we're well past the midway point of this 103-lap race.
Now, the second part of since that first fuel stop, there's been no yellow flags, which means that they're going to have to be scheduling a pit stop here, I would think in another 4 laps, 5 laps, before then they'll have to get all of the fuel that's in the pit tank into the car. They want to go that far. They're able to drain the pit side tank to make sure they have all the fuel. Jeff Bratton was telling me before the start of the race that he sort of chuckles when he hears television commentators talk about turning up the boost. He says the boost is always up. He says once in a while we turn it down to save fuel, but we never turn it up.
Well, what happens when you have to turn it back up after you've turned it down? Now, he didn't address that, I assume, in that conversation.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, and now it's opened up again. As a matter of fact, a considerable gap right now. And again, it could be just one of those breathers that Bobby Rahal is taking. Almost a full second lead now Emerson Fittipaldi has. He's looking for his second victory in a row. Fittipaldi is, the age of 40.
We didn't see Rahal's pit stop, and I don't know whether he got 4 tires or 2 tires, but if it was a 2-tire stop, he's got some worn tires on one side of the car.
Pat Patrick, of course, runs this team. He's running it for Marlboro, and they have seemingly got their act together since Milwaukee. Now you take a look at the win at Cleveland, the third-place finish they had at the Meadowlands. That takes us back through the last 2 races. And suddenly he's become very competitive. And now, of course, leading here past the halfway point, and certainly as good as any car on the track, maybe the best car on the track. That is yet to be determined.
Well, he certainly got this place figured out. And doing very well in traffic there.
And again, at these speeds, we have to emphasize that the smallest mistake, a missed gear change, and we should go through that whole exercise of how they change gears in here. It is a process of...
Yeah, Kevin Cogan there, Fittipaldi's teammate, in car number 7 in traffic.
He was in the pits we mentioned a while ago for an unscheduled stop. Right in front of him, car number 55 belongs to Jose Legarza, who I think a while ago we had as out of the race. Obviously, they've done something to get him back in. You see the speeds they're reaching. We mentioned 300 kilometers an hour down Lakeshore Boulevard. Wonder when the guy built that straightaway. He thought, well, you know, 70 miles an hour. I guess this will hold it good well.
It's quite a thrill to be at speed like that. Rick Biaskiewicz. Now here's Kevin Cogan again with trouble choosing Escape Road.
Oh, he's going to park it. So Cogan is out. That's the sister car of Emerson Fittipaldi. Fittipaldi leads, showing 0.48 seconds at the last lap over Bobby Rahal. 1 lap down is Danny Sullivan. Now on the same lap, he's 10 seconds back as he has just crossed the start-finish line. Then it is Rick Mears. So the 2 Penske cars racing 3rd and 4th right now, and 2 different cars. One's a Penske, the one driven by Mears. One's a March from last year. And interesting that the last year model is on top.
And Roger Penske is now getting up for the race. He's moved to the top of the pit wall. He's right opposite our announce position. He's up there with his stopwatch.
At this point for the Penskes, of course, and now some problems there for Rick Maskiewicz, who seemed to have some problems with his turbo or a little puff of smoke. Oh, he bent his wing. He has made contact with somebody, and he is in. So Maskiewicz is going to go in. They're going to put fuel in and perhaps replace that wing. They're going to have to replace the wing. We got a chance to see what happened to Maskiewicz. He got cut off.
Up the brakes, and he caught. Interesting. What over there? That was John Richards' car.
Pretty good piece of driving there by Ari Leyendyk, too, who was right behind him.
And, of course, that's the aerodynamics. Here's Roberto Guerrero working his way back. Remember, now, he has already made 2 pit stops, but the scores tell us that he's up to 5th place now and moving. Maskiewicz's car being repaired in the pits.
That will take a bit of a time. They have got, of course, to replace that front spoiler, or he will have no aerodynamics back out there again. So, picking up on our leaders, Emerson Fittipaldi ahead of Bobby Rahal.
Coming up on Michael Andretti, about to put a lap on Michael Andretti. This should be interesting because Andretti is a vigorous competitor.
Rick Mears is in 4th place. He's 55 seconds behind the leader. 46 seconds behind his teammate Danny Sullivan. And now in the case of the 2 Penskes, they really are not in the hunt as far as 1st place is concerned, except, of course, debris on the track there is something has happened, and that's going to bring out the the flaggers once again. Something came loose on the there it is there. Now you see it.
Yeah,
and I believe that's Randy Lewis's car.
That's it.
That is, and he has shredded a tire. He's on the rim. So Randy Lewis.
See, he should really be on the right-hand side of the track. He's in the groove and laying down stuff that, where the bodywork is coming off that car.
Well, you see Mears there, and something happened.
Died.
He may have punctured the tire. We don't know. You know, it's difficult what went on before there, but there was debris on the track. So as Lewis makes his way around to the pits, we're going to take another break here at the Molson Indy, and we'll continue after these messages. We're going to keep close track now of these two cars. Number 20, Emerson Fittipaldi, the leader. Number 1, Bobby Rahal, right behind him. They are due to make pit stop. We can see across the track from us, for instance, the Penske crew of Danny Sullivan is readying for their pit stop. The pits of Emerson Fittipaldi and Rahal are far down the way from us. We're over the start-finish line. And we'll just keep an eye now, but it continues to be one of those nose-to-tail battles.
It's going to be interesting to see who chooses to stop first. So here's Sullivan in. We start our watch on Danny Sullivan to see just what they're doing to him. They're giving him 4 tires and fuel. No adjustments to Sullivan's chassis, which is interesting. He's happy with the car. And there he goes in 15.49 seconds. Now, that's a lot better stop than he had last time.
So Danny Sullivan is away, second-place finisher last year to Rahal. And once again, here are our leaders. Now, they're ready also for Rick Mears, who's in 4th place. Now, it could be that these two cars will come in at the same time, and if that happens, then we get that interesting situation that we had earlier this year where Michael Andretti came in. Mears is on his way into the pits right now. Andretti and Rahal came in, and it was Rahal who beat Andretti, who had been leading, out of the pits and went on to win the race. That's Rick Mears.
That's a pretty good stop. How about this? 13 seconds for Rick Mears. Those Penske men are really sharp. Now, that should put Mears perhaps ahead of Sullivan.
We're talking about the Andretti-Rahal exchange of the lead through a pit stop, and that took place at the Meadowlands. Rahal going on to win the race. Started a streak that has not stopped for him. Been red hot since, as we look at Rick Mears in car number 8. Mears has been competitive, but not a winner. Of course, that serious accident he suffered when practice at San Air outside Montreal a couple of years ago. Still walks with a pronounced limp. Mears losing a spot to Guerrero.
Oh, look at this. Barbaza, and it looks like...
Could be that Goodyear?
Possibly, yeah.
Just speculating.
These guys do a pretty good job of getting going again.
Or is that the car of Randy Lewis? That could be Lewis there. And there's our leaders again.
They're still at it. Well, they're going to have to make that stop very soon now. They'll be toying with running out of fuel that's in the car.
Well, we have information that Rahal pit is ready for him. We'll see if he chooses this lap to go in. There they are. Into the pits right now is Barbaza. Or what? Staying with the action on the track right now. There goes Rahal. So Rahal is on his way in.
Okay, we have our watches ready to see exactly what's going to happen to the car. Look at him burning the tires there, hustling in.
And he drove past his pit and aborted the pit stop. I think he was late braking or had some problems.
That's right.
A disaster.
So
a disaster for Bobby Rahal.
That is a rare mistake.
Jerry down in the pits. Jerry?
A mistake that could have cost Ray Hall this victory. He overshot his pit, as Ron called it, a late braking, and he skidded right on by his pit stop, had to go back out on the track, and he'll have to come in this next time around. Now, what's going to be interesting, Fittipaldi is due on in this lap as well, so they could be in the pits pretty much the same time. It'll be interesting who gets back out on the track first.
Well, right now, as we look at Rahal, he must have lost a good 10 seconds on that. It shows 8.07, so very close to 10 seconds on a mistake. And we said a mistake could decide this race. Two equally matched cars like this, and there it was. Now, of course, we've still got quite a lot of racing to go yet.
And Fittipaldi is still staying out on the track. Here's Rahal giving it a second try now. Guerrero's in the pit. But we're waiting for see Rahal crew go to work.
Rahal is right behind him, just coming to a stop.
And, of course, obviously he needs 4 tires, having flat spotted those other tires. Oh, Guerrero's coming out. If we get back to Rahal.
So Roberto Guerrero is out. Rahal is still down there. Guerrero, by the way, racing in 4th spot right now, and now here comes Rahal. So Bobby Rahal, we're unable to get a full clocking on his stop. 17.8 seconds is one of our clockings up here. That is a slow stop.
Yeah, that's
So here we're going to try and pick up Emerson Fittipaldi here as we watch Tom Sneva at a little bit of difficulty and finally going by some slower traffic and getting through. But we're watching for Emerson Fittipaldi. He is going to be making his pit stop. He is 39.33 seconds ahead of the car of... And there is now Fittipaldi. And that pit time there will kill you the story. He'll take the full load there. You see the feed of the fuel, and he is on his way in an excellent stop.
That's a very good stop for Fittipaldi. No mistakes on the part of the number 20 Marlboro crew today.
And he is back out there, and we'll get an exact time. We'll get the interval in just a second off the computers here. He went in carrying a 33-second lead, and it is now 14.96. So the mistake by Rahal plus a perhaps slower pit stop than Fittipaldi is accounted for a total of 14, almost 15 seconds. Just a couple of ticks away from 15-second gap between first and second. So now Rahal is going to try and reel him in a little bit. But now Rahal must concern himself with Danny Sullivan, who is only 2.5 seconds behind him. So Danny Sullivan now has the pressure on Bobby Rahal as well. Sullivan, remember, driving a 1986 model March, last year's edition of a March that he qualified late after the Penske car that they had started out to qualify was giving problems.
Well, he's doing an excellent job with that car.
So Rahal there. Our leader is Emerson Fittipaldi. 12.46 is what the computers say.
Now that's a very difficult disadvantage to overcome, Ron, for Rahal. He'll be asked a lot of questions as to why he overshot. This pit lane here is,
Here's the race for second. And Sullivan, I'll tell you, that's quite a story. Sullivan just in the year-old car, and now suddenly he's been given a new life.
Very much so.
We mentioned that for Sullivan, attrition was his hope. He was 10 seconds back, really faced no chance of catching the leaders unless they came back to him. And that's exactly what Bobby Rahal has done. And now we'll see two former Formula Atlantic competitors who raced each other over a couple of seasons in Formula Atlantic, back out there again, racing each other in this form of racing. Here's Jerry Gatlin. Jerry?
Bobby Rahal had problem on entering the pits was there's some moisture on pit road. You see CART officials sweeping the water away right now. That is fluid from Rick Meskiewicz's car when it was pitted in there. Rahal comes in, he applies the brakes in that area where there's moisture, and he skidded. He couldn't get it stopped in time. It caused problems for Emerson Fittipaldi as well. A dangerous situation at pit entrance, and CART officials are taking care of it now. But Bobby Rahal had to think, goodness, last year we lived problems in the pits. Back to you, Ron.
Well, you know, now let's discuss these tires, because they cannot handle any kind of moisture on the road. The tires are absolutely slick, and you get into any kind of water or anything, you might as well be on ice.
Well, at least it vindicates Rahal. It wasn't a mistake on his part. It was a change in circumstances. Got on the brakes on a wet part of the track. There's no tread on the tires. It's lucky he could steer, because this pit lane has a bend in it. It's not a straight pit road.
Well, it continues to be Rahal for second, and we'll keep watching this now. So there is Rahal in front, and racing in second place, Danny Sullivan in third place, right on his tail. Once again, here's Jerry.
And here are the tires you're talking about. As you can see, there are no grooves whatsoever on the tires. It makes it very difficult when moisture comes in. There's nowhere for the moisture to run off or away from the tires as opposed to rain tires. A very dangerous condition. These are off Emerson Fittipaldi's car. Back upstairs to you, Ron.
All right, so here's the situation. Fittipaldi, 11.26 seconds ahead of Rahal. Danny Sullivan third, Roberto Guerrero in fourth place. The Most in Indy continues after these messages. Via the helicopter shot, at least I hope you can at home. It is becoming a little dark here in Toronto. We said that we expected sun over the area throughout the afternoon. That was the forecast, but suddenly, and of course we're in this hot, humid weather or summertime conditions, it has darkened, the wind has changed direction, and we just may be in for another situation that will involve the leaders of this race.
You know, if it should rain, to any extent, they're going to have to make another pit stop to change from those slick tires to the treaded rain tires. And the pit crews are, you know, of the opinion their work is done for today. May not be the case.
There is Emerson Fittipaldi. Now, at the exchange of pit stops, Fittipaldi had opened up a 14-second lead. Suddenly, that is back down to 9.35. Now, Fittipaldi is taking it easy. The fourth place car in front of him is Roberto Guerrero, so he's about to lap Guerrero, which would mean we'd have three cars on the lead lap. But now, Fittipaldi, knowing he had the 14-second lead, I'm sure is driving a little more conservatively than he was, but I don't think he likes to see that lead cut the way it is being cut at this moment.
Well, that's true, and Guerrero is really coming back after that extra pit stop he made. He's been doing very well. He's not going to move over and lie down for Emerson Fittipaldi to lap him. He's in the hunt for a better position.
The fastest lap of the race, Emerson Fittipaldi, clocking 104.38 miles per hour. Bobby Rahal, 104.28 miles per hour, the second fastest lap of the race. They are the only two drivers who have crossed 104 miles an hour average speed for a lap. Fittipaldi by Guerrero now.
You know, it's interesting, Ron, that those speeds, because the pole speed is only 105.17 miles an hour this year, and that's done with just a couple of quarts of fuel in the car. Everything is absolutely as light as possible, and here we have speeds almost approaching the pole speeds during the competition.
Fittipaldi's lead now down to 8.62 seconds, so it's coming down at a second a lap. We still may have a race here.
You know, the British Grand Prix 2 weeks ago, Nigel Mansell overcame a 28-second deficit by dint of magnificent driving, and with 2 laps to go, went on to win the race. Now, that possibility exists here. We have 23 laps to go.
7.2 seconds now. I wonder if Jerry Gappin's down in our pit area can find out exactly what is happening with him, whether he's having some problems. Jerry is down there right now. Jerry, can you enlighten us a little bit?
Well, with Steve Horn, the team manager for Bobby Rahal, that last stop now, are you going to be able to go the distance?
Well, fuel's not a problem at all, no.
How about the race car? Are you going to be able to come that pit problem there coming in on the entrance with that moisture? Did he say anything about that at all?
Well, that's what caught us. There's a lot of water in the pit lane, and Bobby overshot the pit, which is unfortunate, but there was nothing we could do but go around and do it again.
Is he going to be able to make it up on the track?
Of course he is.
That's confidence.
I wouldn't bet against it the way it's coming down. 7.2 seconds right now, and we're coming back again. We'll get another reading on it. It's, as I say, a second a lap or more as Emerson Fittipaldi comes by us. And we'll wait now for Bobby Rahal, who comes by us as well. And the gap is 6.1 seconds. Very interesting, Chris.
I am amazed at Rahal. One of the things Rahal has been selling is that you can't get emotional at the wheel of a race car. You can't get angry, you can't get excited, you have to sort of do everything in a calm, cool, and collected way. Well, he is my man possessed right now.
Well, I've never, ever believed that kind of stuff from any competitor. You're out there racing, you're emotional. You may be outwardly calm, but inside you don't compete and win unless you have those kind of juices flowing. And I'll tell you something, we're seeing something here, and we may see something sensational before this is over. And if I'm in the Fittipaldi pit right now, I'm beginning to worry a little bit.
Oh, that's true. Rick Mears is right behind Roberto Guerrero here for position. So we've got races developing all over this racetrack.
Danny Sullivan 9 seconds back right now. So Sullivan is maintaining his position as well. Roberto Guerrero's car number 4 there. There they go down that long Lakeshore Boulevard.
And here's for the pass, for the position. Rick Mears.
So Mears is now in 4th place, so the two Penske's are going to pick up some team points here, along with the individual points, if they can maintain 3rd and 4th. Sullivan in 3rd, and Rick Mears now in 4th place. A chance to see the pass once again, and
see, this is a horsepower pass. Now, this wasn't technique or style or trickery. It was out and out oomph on the part of the car.
Floor to the foot to the boards.
Right.
All right, there comes Mears now across the start-finish line, and on his first official lap in 4th position. But our leader continues to be Emerson Fittipaldi by 6.6 seconds currently registered over Bobby Rahal. Sullivan 10.38 seconds back, and we may see now Fittipaldi starting to turn it up a little bit again. But there's Rick Mears. Mears, of course, part of the great years for the Penske team, and don't think that they're not going to come back, because they will. But in the last couple of years, as development problems have existed for the PCs, the PC standing for Penske Corporation, of course, he has slipped. Bobby Rahal, car number 1, through the turn. And Rahal currently showing still at 6.6 seconds behind the leader. Fittipaldi has passed our start-finish line, and we'll just get an interval on that. It's now 7.3 seconds, so I think Fittipaldi has just suddenly turned it up a bit. Here's Jerry.
And Gary Ravizini, the crew chief for Emerson Fittipaldi, what's his story? First of all, can he finish without fueling again?
Well, we're going to go for it. 19 more laps, we'll find out.
How about the distance now? Rahal is really on the prowl. Is he going to be able to close it? Is Emerson let off the boost or anything like that at all?
Well, we're keeping a steady pace at it. We're watching that, and it's also we're trying to keep fuel, mileage down. So, we're playing a game. Which one we have to work with the most?
Track conditions right now, are they getting slick? Is Emo saying anything about that?
No, he hasn't said a word all day. Everything must be fine.
Okay, Emerson Fittipaldi with 2 problems. 1, Bobby Rahal, and 2, fuel.
Well, any words coming out of there? Maybe Portuguese. Chris?
Right. I would think that all of the fuel in the pit side tank should be in the car by now.
That's Rick Mears' car, and he has blown a turbo, it looks like. 8.87 seconds. Bobby Rahal trails now as Mears' car is pushed out of the way. So Mears is finished. His afternoon is done. And we have one Penske remaining out there. Third place, Danny Sullivan, who shows 11.6 seconds off the lead. So the attrition continues to mount here.
18 laps of racing remain. And heavy traffic facing leader Emerson Fittipaldi.
Well, stay tuned for the finish. The Molson Indy will continue after these messages. Emerson Fittipaldi continuing to lead that lap. Suddenly, because of traffic has been cut, the gap between first and second to 5.3 seconds. Fittipaldi, however, went past about 6 cars that were bunched together. We also had a service vehicle on the track, and that slowed things up in that one area where Rick Mears had his problems. And you can see now that the rubber is being laid down on the track, and the groove is rather well defined on the road surface. And things maybe get... Turn 6, apparently some water has been spilled on the track, so they've been out there with the brick dust and the stone dust to kind of dry that up and absorb it.
To blot it up, because it's terrible when you hit. You saw what happened to Bobby Rahal on the pitch. Think of had that happened at a high-speed corner, the consequences of that.
Well, you get a chance to see how this affects us. Fittipaldi out in front there. Yeah, he's kind of gingerly through it. That's Sneva right behind him, and Sneva had his foot to the pedal to the floor to kind of power the car out of the problem, straighten it out. Good view here of the area, including Exhibition Stadium, home of the Argonauts and the Toronto Blue Jays. They race around that, of course. And right now, let's go down to Jerry. Jerry?
With Roger Penske, the car owner for Danny Sullivan and Rick Mears. First of all, Roger, what happened to Rick's car?
Well, he just radio in, said the thing shut off on him on the back straightaway. Then it said it started to smoke in the back, so it must be something with the motor of the gearbox.
Two different situations here. Rick in the PC-16 looked very strong in this race. You have to be encouraged by its progress.
Well, I think it was a good race. Of course, what I'm worried about now is Danny running up front. I think that it's going to be a pretty tight race with just 8 or 9 seconds between the first 3 cars.
The year-old March, you've got a lot of mileage out of those cars this year with Indianapolis and now here. Is Danny okay on fuel here?
Yeah, no problem on fuel.
Okay, Roger Penske turns his attention now to Danny Sullivan in hopes of victory here in the Molson Indy.
Well, we can say that Roger Penske underestimated things because Danny had closed things up to 5 seconds and then now to 6. So it is still a race. It's not that much separating the top 3 as we have Fittipaldi in front by 4.5 seconds over Bobby Rahal, who you see there in car number 1.
They're all closing in on Fittipaldi. Sullivan is right there, just a few car lengths behind. And now Rahal is behind Tom Sneva. He'll have to deal with him as Sullivan closes the interval.
So
it's been great racing today in this event, Ron.
There's been a lot of good racing, and of course now with Sullivan right there with Rahal, Rahal has the double problem of worrying about Emerson Fittipaldi, who he can see at the top of the stretch, the long straightaway at Lakeshore Boulevard. You can see it. He's certainly in his sights at the 4-second advantage. At least it was 4 seconds on the last lap. We'll get you a new reading on that as quickly as we can. It's 5.5 seconds right now, 5 1/3 seconds. And there we see Rahal safely by Tom Sneva now. So Rahal is by him on the way down Lakeshore Boulevard with a stoplight right in the middle of it.
That's right. Sneva seems to be a little more kindly toward Danny Sullivan than he was to Bobby Rahal there.
See that moisture on the road there. It doesn't seem to be right in the line, although Sneva ran into some problems a little earlier.
Look at this. Danny is now starting to measure Bobby Rahal.
Now, this is interesting. Again, we repeat that it has been Sullivan driving a year-old car. This is like last year's model out there, although they've had some problems with the Marches this year. Many people thought they just weren't as good a car comparatively to the 1976 model, and I think Sullivan thinks he can pass Rahal.
It's just interesting. Sullivan thought for a while he might try it, and then he had second thoughts about it. The decision-making processes that go on in the driver's mind here are split second. He started to go for the hole and then thought better of it.
He's going outside here, but
wants to get to the inside coming off. Yeah.
Looking for that right line that'll allow him to Well, we'll take a look at the end of this stretch here, because this is where they seem to get measured up for things. There he comes again. Now he's on the inside. I think he's going to get him. Yeah. He's going to get him. And Danny Sullivan, spin and win Danny from the Indianapolis 500 victory of a couple of years ago, has now moved into second place. Sullivan, who finished second last year in this race to Bobby Rahal, now has passed Bobby Rahal, and he is going to now take aim on Emerson Fittipaldi. The pass couldn't have been handled better, Chris.
Did a beautiful job of coming out. It's a classic case of outbreaking. Him moved way down low for that corner. See him working his way out to get some radius room there. And Rahal, being a gentleman, wouldn't argue the position. Nice job by Sullivan.
So Danny Sullivan in second place. He is 9 seconds behind Fittipaldi right now.
And look at him opening up on Rahal. And you know, it may be Sullivan has the fastest car on the track right now.
We will keep an eye on that, because our computers will allow us to register the fastest lap. It currently is still held by Emerson Fittipaldi. An early lap he put in at 104.38 miles per hour. The fastest lap by Danny Sullivan, 103.76 at this stage. But again, things change during a race. And when Chris said the fastest car on the track right now, that in fact could be the situation. This car parked down there is Jeff Brabham's car. The yellow flag is, of course, a caution being waved.
Warning the drivers of that stall car just past the racing roadway there. That Fabrizio Barbaz is our Sierra Wine special.
So as they push Fabrizio Barbazza away, we've got Emerson Fittipaldi leading Danny Sullivan by 8.2 seconds. We'll be back. There's the story. 9 laps remaining. About 10 minutes of racing. And Emerson Fittipaldi has the lead, 7.5 seconds ahead of Danny Sullivan. Rahal, we are told, is having some problems with his brakes, and that is the reason that Sullivan has been able to open up a 7-second lead on Rahal in the race for second place. Rahal is slowly coming back towards Roberto Guerrero. 7.2 seconds, the latest clocking, and the gap between first and second. A kind of a comfortable lead, although at this stage of a race you begin to wonder if the engine's going to hold up, is the fuel going to hold up, am I going to run into
is listened to by the driver on. Every vibration is felt, and everything becomes more intense, more loud, more pronounced, and more concerning to the drivers in the closing laps of these important races. Incidentally, the odds makers here in town, as I said earlier, liked Fittipaldi, rated him as 3-2, but Sullivan they gave 35-1 odds on.
And there's Rahal right there. I wonder if they have a place bet here. We're allowed to bet when place show.
Rahal was 5-1 on the morning line. Ups, there's a wheel off a car.
And it is going about as fast as the cars are down that wall.
It's off of Michael Andretti's car. You know, that's an interesting, that's an 87 March. The March cars have had trouble with front wheels that are put on during the race coming off. They can't quite understand it. The wheel that is put on the car first in the morning, when all the temperatures are alike, the temperature of the spare part, the temperature of the car, that wheel stays on. When they come into the pits for a tire change and they put the second wheel on, the next pit stop, that lug nut is usually loose. And in some cases, the wheels come off. Now, he was very fortunate there to have that wheel come off just on the way into the pit, where he didn't have to go so far.
There you saw the tire rolling its way down the circuit.
Yeah.
It's kind of going ahead, and he's going ahead. Of course, the balance of these cars, the way they're structured and so on, it just stayed up off the road. He drove all the way into the pit.
It gives you an idea of how stiff the suspensions are on these cars, Ron, why the drivers feel the bumps so easily. Any other kind of car, where the hub and the brake drum would have fallen down on the road. Not so here. There he is. There's the leader, Fittipaldi.
Ludwig Heimrath Jr., by the way, is one of those who lost a wheel, although he drives a Lola. He lost a wheel at Indy. Heimrath, long time out of this race. Scott Goodyear is still in, although he now shows 10 laps behind. He is going to pick up a couple of points in this race because he is also in 10th place. They give points right down to 12th, and if Goodyear can hold on right there, he'll pick up 3 points here this afternoon. So they will be his first points, as an IndyCar racer, and I think that's quite an accomplishment for the young man from Toronto. Now, should the car of Emerson Fittipaldi go on to win this race, we will have some interesting things happen to the point standings here. Because Fittipaldi, who was well back up until a couple of weeks ago when he won, suddenly will have picked up 40 points in 2 races. That will move him right up. The gap now is 6.7 seconds between first and second. Right now, Bobby Rahal has 91 points. Michael Andretti at 78 and Mario Andretti at 62. They are the top 3. Coming into this race, Fittipaldi had 40. So he has an opportunity to move up into 4th or 5th place in the overall standings, and it takes a computer practically to get this straightened away, and we can't do it in short order.
But Rahal will not lose his series lead.
No. And he had a 13-point lead on Michael Andretti coming into the race. There again is the car of Emerson Fittipaldi. It's been quite a performance for Fittipaldi.
You know, the next race on the circuit, the August 2nd 500-mile race at Michigan International Speedway, to be sponsored by his car sponsor, and he won that race last year, and he was so proud of his ability to adapt from a road racing background into the high-bank, high-speed world of Michigan International Speedway type activity, and he's looking forward to that big race. Will be the fastest 500-mile race probably ever run. High bank track here allows great speed. The track record, the qualifying record there, is 223 miles an hour. And with a doctored car, Rick Mears went 233 miles an hour on that same racetrack.
To set a closed course record, a world record that was established in a Can-Am car years ago by Mark Donohue, 133.9 miles an hour, almost 234. That is moving. And that was in an Ilmore Chevrolet engine, by the way. Chris?
That's right. That thing has got a lot of muscle. And this is an Elmore Chevy that's in car number 20, coming down to complete another lap now. Getting closer and closer to the checkered flag here at the Molson Indy at exhibition play.
This will be and is the 49th start in the IndyCar Series for Emerson Fittipaldi, and it all seems to be coming together for him, although his lead now is 4.93 seconds. He is, I'm sure, conserving fuel at this point. He'll keep an eye on Danny Sullivan, who is behind him. But in 49 IndyCar starts, he has been in the top 5 15 times. Take a look at this. That's always the sign. Just don't look. Just kind of hang on.
That's right. Well, you know, they have stopwatches down there, too. They know that Sullivan is closing that interval.
That's Teresa Fittipaldi. Of course, Emerson, quite a family man. He brings his kids to the track. They've become very familiar sights here in the summertime on the series.
And now he's coming up behind another South American driver, Roberto Guerrero. We'll see if this will give Sullivan a break, whether Guerrero makes Fittipaldi hesitate a little bit. He takes the move over flag. Guerrero very gentlemanly gives him the road.
That's that blue flag that was out that warns that there is a car attempting to pass, and if you see fit, move over. And Emerson Fittipaldi continues to cruise at will, almost, although his lead now is down to 3.4 seconds. He will let him reel in a little bit more. But 2 laps to go. He's more concerned about fuel than he is, I think, about Danny Sullivan.
And Sullivan is really up, you know.
So that's the one area where not even the crew really exactly knows what the situation is. They know they're close, the fuel, but they're second now, coming right through. So that's the gap right now, which at last reading on the computer was 3.42 seconds. Bobby Rahal is 32 seconds back, comfortably in third. Roberto Guerrero is a couple of laps down, or a lap down. So for Bobby Rahal, third place looks assured. The white flag has been issued. We're on the final lap right now with a gap of 3.18 seconds. So here we go, the final lap for the leader, Emerson Fittipaldi, who is looking for his second straight victory. Fittipaldi, a winner on the airport circuit at Cleveland just 2 weeks ago. And all of a sudden, finding himself in a lot of very slow traffic.
Now,
Look at that.
Right
now we've got a gap.
Look at this.
What is going on
The
here?
blocked in front of Fittipaldi. Absolutely blocked by the slower cars. Sullivan, 3 lengths behind.
Sullivan has been allowed to close up. That was almost like a flying wedge across the track. So here we go now, and we've got a race to the wire. Look at Sullivan. He's right on Fittipaldi. Now you get that situation where the smallest error by Fittipaldi, and here comes Sullivan. They collide. They collided. Sullivan's gone. Fittipaldi carries on. He's going to win the race. Sullivan took a chance going inside and paid the price, although I think he'll hold on for second. Fittipaldi has won the race. What a finish.
Unbelievable. Well, it's the Irish and the Brazilians out there.
My goodness, but I think that Emerson Fittipaldi is going to have something to say to Danny Sullivan when this is all over.
And maybe the other way. Maybe we can see that again to see just exactly who hit who. But they're celebrating, of course, down in the pit crew there.
So
Fittipaldi on the cool-off lap.
Let's take a look at it. All right. Sullivan is there second. He's going to try to go inside. Fittipaldi having problems with traffic, and Fittipaldi was in the line, I thought.
You know, I'd have to say that Fittipaldi came down on Sullivan there. That's the way I would read it.
You're getting into that old area of whose line, where are you? Now the two of them are together on the track on the cool-down lap here.
It's too bad we can't hear.
Oh, yeah. Danny Sullivan gave it a run, and he can thank for the opportunity to get that run on the fact that there were some awfully slow cars out there at the most crucial time of the race, with about 2 corners to go. Let's take another look at it. Here it is, very slowly. Who's got the line?
Scott Goodyear in front, you see?
Now, he's down on him. Sullivan.
Yeah.
Sullivan's very fortunate that he got second.
Fittipaldi was lucky his left rear wheel didn't go over Sullivan's right front wheel. It'd be interesting to look at the cars as they come in now to see if this had happened, shall we say, 3 or 4 laps ago, would Fittipaldi's car have been able to continue? The rear wheel maybe misaligned by a few degrees or something like that. Sullivan's car may be a little bit out of whack, too. Yeah.
Well, the celebrations are on. Emerson Fittipaldi has won his 2nd straight race, a definite contender here in Indy Racing. We'll be back. Well, let's take another look as the celebrations go on at Victory Lane. You know, you'll get 4 drivers out there to argue this thing. Who's got the right of way? Who's wrong here? Fittipaldi really did, of course, come down on Danny Sullivan, but was Danny Sullivan out of the line?
Well, the car that's in front has the line, but Danny was alongside him there. It's just one of those racing things, and whether it's going to carry over to Michigan and that 200-and-some-odd mile racetrack is one of the things I'd be concerned with.
Should mention that
getting along.
Right. Should mention that while, of course, the celebrations go on down in the Marlboro pits, that Scott Goodyear has finished the race and finished in 8th place, which I think is very credible. Kept on the road, stayed there throughout. There are 8 finishers in the race. All right, Jerry Gappens is down in the area, and he is going to try and round up the principals in the drama at the end.
You know, one of the interesting aspects of this race is that the Chevy Elmore engine, there were only 5 of them in the race today. It finished 1 and 2.
All right, here's a reaction from Teresa Fittipaldi. Is I don't think she saw the incident, so she doesn't know what's happened out on the track. She's just going to see Emerson come around that favorite turn of his and cross the finish line in first place. How about that?
That's the way. Well, that's what it's all about. And they're going now.
A big smile on your face, Emerson. You gave us some excitement at the end. What was the situation with Sullivan there?
Yeah, you know, it was a shame McPherson was. I think he hadn't seen on the mirror, and he slowed me down a lot. And then the last lap, I was trying to get by him. I couldn't get by, and then he tried on my inside, and he hit my back. I nearly spun off, but managed to stay on the track.
Whose fault was that contact, yours or his?
No, I think it was the fault from the traffic. You know, McPherson should let me go by like half a lap before that. I mean, he was 2 or 3 laps down. I don't know why he was there.
How about that final contact coming out of the corner there where he was underneath you? Did you come down on him, or did he come up, or you didn't see him?
No, he was coming on my inside and hit my rear wheel. But I couldn't move forward because the other car ahead of me.
A big win. Were you concerned about the fuel right at the end?
No, the fuel was okay, no problem at all.
Okay, Emerson Fittipaldi, the happy victor. And the guy that was the story of the race in the early part, Bobby Rahal. And Bobby, a tough day out there. You had a couple situations when you entered that pit. You got surprised by some water there. What was going through your mind when you come skidding in?
Well, they had the yellow up, but I was looking for something other than water across the pit lane, and you know, I didn't even see that, and I hit that, and that was all she wrote. You know, I couldn't stop in time, so that hurt us.
Anyway, you could have caught Fittipaldi, and Sullivan came on really strong there at the end as well.
Well, I lost my brakes. I absolutely had no brakes, and you know, I tried catching Emerson and just couldn't. I could catch him, but the brakes would keep going away on me, and after Danny got by me, there's just, you know, I just couldn't. I figured we'd consolidate instead of risk putting it in the fence.
Okay, Bobby Rahal finished third. Let's go back up to Ron.
All right, the order of finish. Emerson Fittipaldi wins it. Danny Sullivan hung in to get second place, 8 seconds behind. 34 seconds behind Sullivan was Bobby Rahal, followed by Guerrero. We'll be back. Well, nobody can say that the Molson Indy doesn't produce drama. We've had 2 years of the Molson Indy and 2 very dramatic finishes. Emerson Fittipaldi wins over Danny Sullivan. Bobby Rahal third, Guerrero, and then Michael Andretti. Now downstairs, here's Johnny Esau.
You made a lot of distance up there at the end and made it exciting for us. What happened between you and Mo there at the end?
Well, luckily for me, but unfortunately for Mo, he got held up in traffic. I had one shot at him coming in the corner before the pits and just stuck my nose in there to see if I could elbow my way through, but he wasn't having any of it. Shut the door on me and kind of banged wheels and half spun around, and he went on. We backed up and took off and got second.
Any hard feelings with that kind of contact at all?
No, we talked about it afterwards. He knows I had to take a shot at him. I had a shot, but he had to do what he did, and it was just one of those things.
You going to stay with this year-old March now for the rest of the season, or will you go back to the 16?
Well, for sure next week or in 2 weeks we'll be in a year-old March, but I don't know what the rest of the season will bring.
Okay, second place finisher, Danny Sullivan. How back to you, Ron?
All right, Chris, we can discuss the point standings now in the series, and they've completed 8 rounds of the series. Bobby Rahal, although he finished in third place, 105 points. Before we get to the point standings, let's take a look at the last third of a lap here, and we'll see what happened, because Chris, this is where all of a sudden they made it close, and I can't believe that cars could get strung out across a track like this and cause difficulties.
It's called racing luck, almost in reverse around it. There's Sullivan right behind Fittipaldi, and here they come up. They're beyond. It's beyond the point you're referring to. That's the actual point of contact. But think about the finish. The winner, Emerson Fittipaldi, has a collision with Danny Sullivan. Second place, Sullivan hits Fittipaldi. Third place, Rahal has trouble in the pits. Roberto Guerrero has to make an extra pit stop. He's fourth. Michael Andretti loses the front wheel. He's fifth. Only Tom Sneva had an uneventful race, and he finished down the line. Unbelievable.
Well, there you see it, the top 5, and we'll straighten out the point standings when we get a chance. And we'll be back, the Molson Indy, in a moment. Starting to tow cars back into the pit area here at Exhibition Place. Let's bring you up to date now on the standings, the overall series standings after 8 rounds. Bobby Rahal, of course, finished in third place and picked up 14 points. He also picked up a point for winning the pole, so he has a total of 105 points now. Michael Andretti, meanwhile, in car number 18, picked up 10 points today, 88 points now. Roberto Guerrero at 65 points. He had a 12-point day today. Mario Andretti at 62, and then suddenly in the picture, and he was not there 3 races ago, Emerson Fittipaldi with 61 points. He got 41 points for his race today. 21 points. He had the fastest lap for a single point, plus the 20 points for the victory. He has 41 points in his last 2 races and 55 points in his last 3 races. And that's what we were saying. He had only 6 points through the first 4 races of the season. So suddenly, Emerson Fittipaldi has got it all together. He and, of course, his team. And now they are definitely a factor, and he is seriously looking up.
You know, and when
at the other
the
people.
season is over, Ron, you get more than a trophy. that point fund. The first place in the point standings is worth $300,000 U.S., second $200,000 U.S., third $150,000, down to 20th for $5,000, a total of $1.2 million U.S. in the point fund payoff at the end of the season. That's a considerable sum of money.
And we'd like to congratulate Scott Goodyear, who faced a tough uphill battle here under a great deal of pressure, kept his car on the track. He had his problems, of course, but he finished, and he finished in 8th place. He was the last car running when they crossed the finish line, and he picks up the points for 8th, which is a total of 5. And under the circumstances, with the pressure of hometown and everything else, I think he just comported himself very, very well here in Toronto.
So I think he has a future in IndyCar racing because in addition to his driving talents, he has the sponsor's way, so to speak. He understands the importance of dealing with the business side of racing and the publicity and public relations aspects that go along with it.
All right, well, we're here now. We'll take a look at the total purse money here at the Molson Indy, and here's the way it has been divided up. $800,000 total. A very, very high-priced race, as it were, and Emerson Fittipaldi had himself a pretty good day in Canadian dollars, $68,160. So, a good day for Fittipaldi, and the points fund, of course, starting to mount. We'll take a break here at Exhibition Place in Toronto. The Molson Indy continues after these messages.